All right, well, on the line right now, we got Tony Quinn. Now, you know this guy. I would say most people will know you probably as the best teacher on television, Mr. Turner from Boy Meets World.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
Now, I know for me, watching the show, my favorite character, definitely Mr. Turner, for sure. He was the ideal teacher. He was relatable. He would get down to your level. Now, do you think if he was to be a real teacher, how do you think he would stand up?
To be honest with you, I think he would stand up pretty well. I know some teachers that are very much like that really have kind of a special connection to their students. They really care for their students. They want to see them exceed and have a lot of success in school. So I think I don't think that character is too far from reality.
And it's very inspiring too. People I know watch the show. My girlfriend, actually, an English teacher, and she had mentioned at one point that your role on that show was the reason she became a teacher.
You know, that's amazing to me. I heard that similar story from actually a casting director that I walked into her office and she said, you know, it's just finally so nice to meet you and so forth. You've been one of my favorites for a long time. And I was like, wow, really, me? And she's like, yeah, my son chose his career path because of you on that show. And she proceeded to tell me that, he does something that I think it's some kind of teacher function thing, something. Mm-hmm. To the effect of, that every day he tells her, Mr. Turner, and he gives her thumbs up. And, I mean, it just brought tears to my eyes. So to hear what you just said, I mean, it's amazing to me that being on a show like that and having an impact for good in someone's life it just blows me away.
Yeah, it really bypasses that line. It's no longer just some show. It's changing lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that every young actor dreams about. At least I did. I mean, first of all, just to be on a show, to be on TV when you sort of start from nothing, it's just a dream to be on a show. And then to have your work on that show somehow impact someone's life, it's just something that you always dream about. So to have it to be a reality to me, it's just amazing.
Yeah, well, actually, growing up, I had a Mr. Turner in my high school, so it was kind of a weird moment because I had it, but he was not nearly as cool as you were, though. So,
well, that's kind of the thing with TV characters, right?
and the show is making a comeback, as you probably know. The Girl Meets World. Are any ideas if you're going to be involved in this, making a cameo at some point, or have they contacted you?
They haven't contacted me yet. I'm kind of pretty close with the show's creator, producer, Michael Jacobs, and he and I had done a pilot together. Actually, while he was working on the original pilot for Boy Meets World, we had done a pilot. So when we were doing that show that we were doing, we kept hearing about the Ben Savage project, and at that time, I did not know who Ben was. I had no idea that Fred had a little brother. Mm-hmm. So Michael and I, just kind of developed a relationship, and over time we've just become friends, and he and I went out to breakfast one day just recently, and this is, before his new show has really taken shape. And he had said that at some point he wants to revisit kind of everybody that, was a part of Boy Meets World. So I don't know exactly how that will take shape, but if they asked me to be on the show, I would love to be on the show because it was just such a great time working with everybody, and I'd love to see Ben and Danielle again.
Yeah, if Mr. Turner was to come back, what kind of role do you think he would play? You think he'd be like superintendent level at this point?
Well, I hope that whatever it is they do, I hope that they would serve the audience and the fans of the character and the memories they have of that character. I hope it would not just be some kind of gratuitous little cameo, mm-hmm. because so many people have either responded to me on Twitter or Facebook talking about why was there never any closure, what happened to the character. And I know that they all have a lot of questions, so I hope they address those things. And because in reality, I mean, sometimes things on the network, at the network level, they want to change the show and take it in a different direction, and there's really no time to wrap up any kind of loose ends or storylines, and they just kind of end them abruptly, and they just move on,
Was that what happened? It was like a motorcycle accident, and then your character was gone? Is that kind of how it went down, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, that's kind of how it went. I mean, there was just changes that were being made at the network level, at the studio level, and they just kind of thought, okay, well, we need to just kind of wrap this up in one episode, and then I never got back to really describing anything about the character and the relationship that the other characters had with this character, which is kind of unfortunate for the fans, but that's just kind of how it went down.
And after Boy Meets World 2, you went on and did some more television. Melrose Place, how long were you on that series?
I only did 5 episodes of that show. It was just kind of when I did it, it was just a 5-episode arc for my character. I wound up trying to seduce Heather Locklear and marry her and try to steal her fortune, and somehow I wound up getting killed the last episode that I did, which was a lot of fun. I mean, Heather's a great person, and she was a lot of fun to work with.
Any highlights from the career? Looking back, what sticks out for you the most? What made an impact in your life?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say that because for me, I mean, it's all fun. I mean, it's all wonderful. The people that I've been able to work with. I mean, for me, the highlights have always been people that I've been able to work with that I've always admired their work from when I was just a kid. I mean, I was able to work with Dick Van Dyke, who I think, if you want an example of how to be the lead on a show and to be funny and charming and everything you need to be, you look to Dick Van Dyke and the Dick Van Dyke Show. I mean, it was perfection in a TV show, and he was perfection in that. So to be able to actually work with him and slobber all over him for a week and just ask him questions about the show, I mean, that was a highlight. To be able to I did an episode of Las Vegas with James Caan, and to be able to talk to him and ask him questions about films that he's been in The Godfather and what it was like to make that iconic film. Those are some of the highlights for me that I've been able to work with people like that.
A couple of questions that people actually tweeted me, as I mentioned, I'd be chatting with you or whatever. One of them was your role in Mr. Turner. Did that any inspiration from a real life teacher that would have helped you draw into that?
Well, when I was in high school, I had a woodshop teacher his name was Mr. Holmes, and Mr. Holmes was he was just one of these guys. He was a real guy. Because our experiences when we were in high school, I don't know if you experienced this, but whenever we would see our teachers outside of the context of being teachers, and we'd see them at a restaurant or something, we'd all be like, "Wow, I didn't know this guy actually ate food." It was just, you always see them in that context, and they didn't seem like real people, And Mr. Holmes was just a real guy, and he really seemed to connect and click with the students. So anytime that a student has someone like that in their life, I think it's really important. So when they came to me and when I actually was able to get this role, I thought, I always liked that when I was a student, so I wanted to be that kind of teacher and connect with the students and really be real with them, So I think I had some of that experience when I was in high school, and I wanted to bring that to the role, and then to see that, I had that kind of impact on people when they were growing up watching that character. I mean, and to me, I was only on the show for, I think, 2.5 years. So to have that kind of impact in such a relatively short time, it still just blows my mind.
Did you ever get criticism from real life teachers saying like, "Hey man, you're setting the bar way too high here"?
The only criticism that I've heard, sort of in a negative way, was that I sort of crossed the line student-teacher relationship when Sean, the character, Sean Ryder's character, kind of came to live with me. But
yes.
For me personally, I don't see that that's crossing the line at all. I just recently watched a documentary called Undefeated, and it's about a school in, I think, Memphis, Tennessee, where some of the underprivileged kids and stuff were kind of struggling and trying to get better grades. And in one of the scenes in this documentary, one of the teachers, one of the coaches of the football team, said to this one football player, in order for you to get better grades, we want to help you, so come live with us, stay in our home, and we'll take care of maybe some of the tutor issues and some of that stuff, and my son can help you, so you can have access to these kinds of things. So, I mean, here he comes to live with a football coach and teacher and so forth, and nobody had a problem with that. So I didn't have a problem and see that it was crossing any lines to see a student that was really struggling and in trouble saying, "I'm going to meet this need, come and stay with me because your parents are right now having some problems, so you come and be with me and I'll protect you and I will care for you." That was not an issue for me. Plus, it was a TV show, so if you're getting your reality lessons, from a TV show, then something's wrong. You know what I mean?
Totally hear you, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for the time. I don't really want to keep you much longer because this is so nice that you did this for me. It's incredible, and it's weird how Twitter works.
No problem. I'm glad that you asked me to come be on the show.